The unfolding of the story may be slower than we're used to in the movies, but it's changing the Marvel Universe faster than we ever could have imagined. The appearance of one character in particular left us completely floored. What do all of these developments mean for the future of MCU? Let's have a look.
You didn't tell me you had plans.
The major shocker of the show thus far was the introduction of Evan Peters as Pietro in Episode 5. What's mysterious about his presence is that we don't exactly know which Pietro he is. From what we've gathered, the personality seems most similar to the X-Men version and his memories from the Marvel version. Pietro becoming a focal point in the series opens the possibility for other Fox characters to appear on the show. As for the future of MCU, it seems as though character crossovers and multiverses could become a norm, making the franchise able to grow in ways we never could have anticipated.
It's cool. I know I look different.
With the mystery of Pietro still up in the air, it's hard to say exactly how he exists in this world. However, if we consider that the new Spider-Man will also feature former Spider-Mans, Pietro's introduction in WandaVision could imply that multiple characters could exist across multiple universes, with the ability to travel across these universes, no less.
Time travel!
When Wanda said no more mutants in the comic House of M, it wiped out pretty well all mutant kind. If this is indeed the X-Men version of Pietro, then that means that mutants are back, and more could appear in the show and future projects, fundamentally changing the series and MCU.
Who are you?
We know that Monica has been discouraged from going back into the Hex, since there is proof in her blood work that she's changing on a molecular level. Since this is the case and Wanda expanded the Hex to include more people, does it mean all of their molecular formations have changed? If so, we're not only looking at the possibility of existing mutants being introduced in the MCU, but the creation of multiple mutants as a result of the Hex. This means we could potentially see new characters added to the MCU roster.
Thanks for thanking of me.
Episode 5 had a brief mention of Captain Marvel,
Well, I'd argue that Captain Marvel came close.
which Monica was quick to avoid. This could indicate a few things. A, is there some unknown drama between Lieutenant Trouble and Captain Marvel that could appear in a future MCU production? B, earlier in her career, she was known as Captain Marvel herself. Since we're realizing there is a possibility that multiple versions of characters may exist in MCU now, does this mean there could be two Captain Marvels? Either options could lead to major changes in the MCU.
You got something for me?
While the Sokovian accent coming out may have been a slip-up due to an emotional moment, it could also mean that she might still be under the influence of Hydra. While the organization is defunct in both MCU and Agents of S.W.O.R.D, this clue indicates Hydra may still exist in some capacity, especially since it's been included in many commercials. The Strucker watch has Hydra written on the face, and the luxury bath soak advertised is called Hydra Soak. These inclusions feel like more than just a coincidence. If Hydra is really back, then it could play a huge role in future MCU productions.
Well, then we have to protect it.
We already know that WandaVision is leading us into the next Doctor Strange film, so it could be possible that he appears in WandaVision as well. Since Wanda seems to be losing control, it would make sense for him to show up, since in the comics, Doctor Strange once limited the powers of the Scarlet Witch when she was becoming too powerful. This further emphasizes the idea of multiverses and potential future character crossovers. With Doctor Strange and multiple Spider-Mans appearing in the new Spider-Man, it seems as though future MCU productions are going to be filled with crossovers.
I know what you're gonna say. You should not be here.
The commercials have been one of the most unique aspects of WandaVision by far, and could indicate a style change in future MCU productions. This clever tool to drop references and potential hints could be used again in the future. The TV show format and unique inclusions may be a bold and exciting move toward telling the MCU stories in more varied genres and styles.
Lagos. For when you make a mess, you didn't mean to.
Though the change to the acronym S.W.O.R.D from Sentient World Observation and Response Department to Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division has yet to be explained in WandaVision, we can conclude this potentially affects the entire MCU. Changing world to weapon indicates the goal of the agency is not only to pay attention to alien risks, but also to superheroes who aren't able to control their powers.
You never know. You hope for the best.
From what we can gather from the show thus far, it seems pretty obvious that Wanda's quickly growing children, Tommy and Billy, will grow up to be the Young Avengers. This could mean that the original MCU Avengers have been retired to make room for new content focused on the Young Avengers team. A huge change to the MCU.
Next stop, Cavity Town.
The soon-to-be Young Avengers, Tommy and Billy, have inherited powers from Wanda and Pietro, a major indicator that mutations can be passed on in this series. That is, if that's what they're being considered in this world. If so, mutation having the ability to be passed genetically radically shifts dynamics in the MCU.
Isn't it?
The idea that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness is pretty probable, especially considering the amount of hints that have been dropped throughout the series. The witch costume she wore in episode 6 really confirmed it for us, as well as the fact that S.W.O.R.D doesn't know who she is. A witch being added to the mix would be a major change for MCU, considering there's always been a focus on science. Combining the worlds of mysticism and science would lead to a big dynamic shift between characters as well, since we don't know the extent of mythical powers that could exist in MCU.
Okie dokie, neighbor!
With Wanda's emotional outburst and the expansion of the Hex in episode 6, we can conclude her powers are far greater than we originally thought. What could happen if she uses her powers to her full potential? Wanda is becoming more and more of a major player in the MCU world. And since we're seeing the multiverse possibilities explode, this could lead to a new MCU era with Wanda as a major leader. Due to the success of WandaVision and the appeal the episodic style has for the comic book lovers, it is very likely that MCU will lean towards making more MCU TV shows. The format allows for more thorough and detailed storytelling, rather than the movies that have to cut a lot of the backstory or details and plots due to time restrictions. Characters are getting more focus on their individual stories, and with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and Hawkeye coming, the way MCU is telling stories is inevitably changing.
Yes.
Yes!
We've been pondering over the question of Vision's future since we've noticed some clues that indicate he might come back. The first is the heart on the date August 23rd in episode 1. In the Avengers comic number 238, Vision is reactivated. The second clue, the Strucker Watch ad with the time on the clock, appears at 2:42. The Avenger comic number 242 is the one in which Vision is repaired after his deactivation. Coincidences? We hope not. If he is brought back to life, MCU would be welcoming back a major player once again, leading to more storylines with Vision included.
Why would you think that?
So far, we've been blown away with the quality and intricacy that WandaVision has demonstrated. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has definitely changed, and we're looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. How long will we have to wait for a Young Avengers-focused movie or show? We can't wait.